As the party of trepid adventurers goes into the lair of the Red Dragon, they go through the twisting and winding of the corridors in the tower in which it resides. One of the members makes a perception check and hears deep breathing. As the party turns round, they are making direct eye contact with Baphomet, the Red Dread. As the party unsheathes their weapons. Wait! What is it that you want? You just ruined the suspense of my combat encounter.
Well, I just don't know how to run a combat encounter in 5th edition anymore.
Alright, in this video, I'll teach you 5 steps to run your first 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons combat encounter. How are we doing today, storytellers? Welcome to my channel in which I teach you how to run your first Dungeons & Dragons campaign and how to play in your first Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And what we're going to be talking about today is the 5 steps that you're going to need in order to run your first combat encounter. So, step number 1 is to simply get the combat encounter started. Roll initiative. Now, how you roll initiative for your player characters is literally just roll a d20 and then have them add their dexterity modifier to it. And for you and your monsters, just roll a d20 and have them add their initiative modifier to it. And there you go, combat has started. Now, a really quick trick that you can take in order to make gathering initiative and making the initiative order much easier is quite simply just ask your players a select range of numbers and go in descending order. So, for instance, initiative starts with the dragon and Baphomet the Red Dread. And I say, all right, who's got a 25 to 20? No one? All right, who's got a 15 to 14, right? And I just keep going down and down and down in order to figure out the initiative order.
All right, step number 2 is to manage the Hoard. Now, if you're anything like me, I like to throw a lot of monsters at my party in order to have them really feel the heat and feel the odds. So the only issue that comes with this is I have 12, 18, 30 goblins I have to run for my level whatever party, and it becomes a little hard to manage the Hoard. So here's a few tricks that I can teach you. So step number 1 or sub 1, something like that, is for the attacks and damages, you can quite literally just roll 1 attack die and 1 set of damage dice, and then have that be the rolling for all of your monsters inside your Hoard, and then simply just apply it to each of the characters. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to quite simply take the averages of each of the rolls plus all their additions to it for both the attack and the damage in order to then hit your players and deal your damage to your players. And if you want to figure out how I got all that dice math rolling, just I'll ask that in the comments and I will definitely make a video on that. Oh, cut all that junk. Yeah. So it was begin. Or you can simply do the normal stuff in which you roll a dice for each and every one of the monsters. I mean, whichever way you want to use one of these 3 different ways to manage your Hoard, go right ahead and do it. Because either way, you're managing the Hoard and it's just going to be a fun combat encounter.
Alright, now the third step in order to run your first combat encounter is to determine actions. So, if you don't play with a board on the table and actually draw out the map, then you play in what's called Theater of the Mind, in which you literally describe the combat encounter and you describe the playing field in which your players are actually acting in. So, if you're playing in Theater of the Mind, you have to determine whether or not certain actions can go through. So, let's say your barbarian Goliath wants to run across and attack the giant. You have to determine whether or not they can do that. And if you're playing with Theater of the Mind, maybe there's something that is blocking the barbarian from being able to get to the giant, but you have to describe that and explain that to your barbarian player and say, oh no, you can't do that because there is a ravine blocking you and the giant. So it makes it, you'd have to jump over the ravine. So that's step number 3, is to determine the actions and whether or not they can or cannot happen. And if they can happen, I mean, they just happen, right? You just tell your player, oh yeah, you can do that. But if they can't happen, explain to your players why it can't, or give them an alternative in order to be able to do the action that they want to do. Where did I put my phone? Oh, there it is. There you guys are. So, step number 4, and this is probably the most important step in my opinion, is to narrate the battle. Now, what 5th edition combat really turns out to be, in the grand scheme of things, is a bunch of dice are rolled, a bunch of damage is rolled, and you're explaining how they kill the dragon. Now, if you're the fighter, not a wizard or any other spellcaster, it can become really boring as you're waiting for the other 3, 4, 5 players to do all their epic turns. Then it gets to you, and you roll an attack, you miss or you hit, and you deal a little bit of damage, and that's it. And it just doesn't feel all that good to your players. So what can make the combat much more interesting and keep them far more engaged inside the combat scenario is to narrate the battle and narrate everything that's happening. So for instance, if your barbarian rolls in order to attack the giant, right? And he rolls and he hits. Instead of just saying, oh yeah, you hit and you deal your damage, you actually go through and say, oh, you sweep out the giant's leg, but even though he steps over it, you manage to catch the bottom of his heel. And as he steps down, he falls and crumbles a little bit, in which you can then go for another attack and give him a huge gash across his chest. Whoa, that's epic. That's cool. That's something that's going to keep your players intrigued and engaged in the combat encounter. So if you just narrate all the actions that your players are taking, it just keeps them far more invested. And if you narrate what the monsters do, even though statistically or mechanically it doesn't deal all that much damage, you can describe it in the most devastating way ever that really ups the ante and gets them stressed out. Alright, the final and 5th step in order to run your first 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons combat encounter, got a little jing to it, is to give the epic last blow. So, this is something that I very recently learned from watching Critical Role, in which, if you ever watch it, you'll see whenever one of the players actually delivers the last blow, Matthew Mercer says, how do you want to do this? And from him saying that, he gives the players a chance in their own spotlight to give an epic last blow in the way that they want to, and even stretch or bend the rules a little bit just to make it epic and cool for them. So I think this is something that every single Dungeon Master should implement in their games, as it simply will make your characters, or your players I should really say, feel epic and cool. Maybe the bard wants to slay the giant, but what they want to do is surf along the back of the giant with their blade and weaving and waving blade strokes and actually make it gush out blood to the point in which after they fall into the ground, they're just sitting in a pool of it. You just let them do that. And if you have really new players and they're not really into the whole being extremely descriptive, you can take it to the next level and narrate that action and make your players feel so epic. Alright, storytellers, I really hoped you enjoyed this content that I had in this video. Remember, I always post videos every single Saturday around the 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock area, and just talking about more stuff for you Dungeon Masters. I have some new shows that are actually popping up soon. I actually have a really cool Monster Hunter class that I am almost done with that I'm going to be allowing you guys to have access to. And if you guys really like the content that I put in these videos, feel free to sneak attack that like button down below. And if you really like my content, please subscribe. And if you want to ever talk to me about something or even ask me to make a new video about something, just comment that in the comments below. The question of today is, how do you play your combat encounters? Do you do theater of the mind, or do you play with a board? Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you next time.